we are now hopping into a little bit of a weekend recap, current TCG format talk, I suppose, because I did quite enjoy the watch party of the NAWCQ over the weekend, and I think it's worth talking about what it seems like the current state of the TCG, because of course they did not announce a ban list at the NAWCQ, which leaves us with this format for an unknown amount of time. We might be getting one at the EUWCQ, or we might not. We have no real idea, and we have no way of knowing. So I think it's worth talking about, because the weekend started with the NAWCQ Worlds Points playoffs, of course, and that looked like, actually, let me move over here so you guys can see the breakdown. The points playoffs, of course, is the tournament on the Friday of the NAWCQ, where the 16 best performing players of the entire season play for 2 spots at the World Championship. And I want to say, not super surprisingly, this tournament looked rather it looked rather bad for the new archetypes, let's say, right? Like for everything from Duelists Advance, you basically saw almost 0 cards from Duelists Advance in this tournament. It was just some Onomat Ryzeals. I believe the 3 Ryzeal decks in this top 16 were all Onomat Ryzeals. And then other than that, it just had a bunch of Mitsurugi variations. 7 Malice were represented, and 1 Memento, which I believe was Pack, who was already qualified for Worlds via Master Duel. So this tournament on the Friday, I think, made it look like the format didn't change much from the recent set release, which is of course Duelists Advance, but also Battles of Legends, the most recent side set, basically, which has. We're going to see some impact of that set in the main event, interestingly enough. So, yeah, that, anyways, the playoffs was very much, I would say, standard, which honestly, I think it makes sense when you have like the 16 best performing players of the season. Those players are obviously going to try their hardest to win. So they're going to play the decks that are perceived to be the best decks. Because this tournament actually doesn't give you that much info about if the new decks are any good, because they didn't really compete with these other decks. Right? It's just this tournament just shows you what the perception of these 16 players was in regards to the current format. They did not trust the new decks enough. You know, they didn't trust you name it, Orchest, Gem Knight, Vanquish Soul, Sky Striker, Artmage, whatever. Like all those decks, they didn't compete in this tournament because it was just these 16 players bringing these 16 decks. And so this was just basically a Mitsurugi versus Malice versus Ryzeal tournament. But very fitting, the 2 people that qualified for Worlds via this thing were Malice and Mitsurugi Ryzeal. The 2 big decks in the current format basically made it to Worlds via the points playoffs, which is interesting. Because the main event, which is the big one I want to talk about here, the main event painted in some ways a similar picture, but in other ways a very, very different picture. Because of course, when we look at the top breakdown for the main event, the NAWCQ 2025, which had over 2,800 players, but I don't even know, that might be it might be a record. But maybe it's not. I'm not sure. 2,800 seems very big to me. If you look at the top cut breakdown, of course, Malice and Mitsurugi are taking the by far biggest shares here of the pie chart, but there is a surprising amount of variety in the rest of the top 64, and that's mainly what I want to look at today. Because the current format, of course, Malice and Mitsurugi are going to be the best performing decks. I think it's worth mentioning that for Malice, of course, those 18 lists probably relatively close to each other. I mean, of course, there's going to be variations, but Malice, for the most part, is Malice. Whereas with Mitsurugi, the story is a little bit different. You know, Mitsurugi can be a bunch of different decks. You know, there's Mitsurugi Ryzeal, which even in itself can be 2 different decks, I feel like. Because Mitsurugi Ryzeal can be played as more like a pure or like a very heavy Ryzeal deck. You know, you see people play like Ryzeal Cross, Ryzeal Star, and so on and so forth, which very, very heavy focus on the Ryzeal cards. But you also see people playing a version of the deck where it's like a heavier focus on the Mitsurugi cards, and you're just using like a couple of Ryziel cards just basically as additional starters and additional like ceiling for the Mitsurugi cards, because of course via King of the Pharaoh Imps you can also use an X Ryziel as a starter for your Mitsurugi combos. And they play like still multiple ritual spells, Futsu, maybe multiple Murakumo and stuff like that, like a bigger Mitsurugi package in general. Then there's also just Mitsurugi Fiendsmith or pure Mitsurugi, which are also decks. So the Mitsurugi portion of the pie chart, it could likely be divided even further if you wanted to be really strict about it, you know? Yeah, so, but then after those two, because together they are taking a combined 36 out of the 64, which is just slightly above half of the metagame in Top Cut here, being Malice or Mitsurugi variations. And the other half is like a super diverse mix of different things. And that's mainly what I want to look at today, because of course we've talked about Malice variations. We've talked about Mitsurugi decks for weeks and months now. So I don't think it's, I mean, of course there's going to be some interesting spice here and there in these deck lists, but the super interesting stuff for me is how did the new decks perform and which kind of rogue decks were able to compete in this format. Because I think you can say a lot about Malice or Mitsurugi Ryziel. There's one thing that these decks don't really do, and that is they don't really gatekeep a lot of other decks out of the format. There's no decks, or only very few decks, that are just like straight up unplayable because these decks are in the format. It's not like I don't know, the way I like to think about it is like it's not like a Kashtira or Ricehard kind of card is in the format right now, which basically makes it so that like every deck that relies on the graveyard is inherently at a huge disadvantage, because they basically need to draw the out to a Ricehard, or otherwise there's no way they can win. There's no real card like that in Malice or Mitsurugi. I think the closest that you can get to this sort of situation is the fact that the relevance of Mitsurugi Ryziel makes it so that a lot of people are playing Droll Lockbird, and Droll Lockbird is a card that is maybe gatekeeping some of these decks. But then still, you see a lot of decks here in Top Cut that are kind of weak to Droll Lockbird. You know, we see White Forest, we see Mermails, we see... I'm sure Punk also doesn't appreciate to get Drolled, but maybe it's fine now with the new Rising scale. But there's a couple of decks that don't appreciate Droll that are still topping, including Mitsurugi Ryziel. But yeah, anyways, the format is pretty wide in terms of the other options that you can play, because Malice and Mitsurugi Ryziel are the best decks, but they are not like gatekeeping other decks out of the format, which I think is probably a good thing for the best decks in the format, right? It's like they are stronger than other decks, so I would like to see them hit on a ban list slightly, but they are not like actively forcing you to play these decks if you don't want to, because arguably you can definitely top with other decks. So let's look into these other decks that we're able to top, and of course we are going to take a closer look at the two decks that are very new and also very surprising at the top here with Orchist and Gem Knight in a second. But first, let's talk about the numbers that some of these other decks were able to put up. Vanquish Soul was the third biggest deck in Top Cut, which I personally love to see because I love this deck. I think it's very fun, both to play and watch. So I was very happy to see how Vanquish Soul was able to do in this tournament. Vanquish Soul is still a deck that, for the current format, I think it's going to... I mean, it's not fully figured out yet. I took a little bit of a look at some of these deck lists already, and it was like they were very much all over the place in terms of the non-engine, basically. I mean, everyone knows what engine you're supposed to play in Ryziel, but like everyone is basically all over the place with the kind of non-engine that they play in this deck. So I think it's an interesting deck to figure out. However, it is also worth noting that at the end of this month, we are going to see a huge shakeup in this format, no matter what. If there's a ban list or not, actually doesn't even matter in that regard, because Justice Hunters is a set that is going to be coming out at the end of July. So just or start of August, I don't know the exact date, but it's like 2 or 3 weeks from now. So that is going to be a pretty big shakeup, because it's going to throw very, very strong decks into the format in the form of course, Yummy, Draco Tail, and K9. K9 arguably not only being its own deck, but also just like a completely new hand trap package, basically, that's going to shape up the metagame significantly, also paired with Ryzeal. So that's going to be interesting no matter what. But for now, this brief period of time before Justice Hunters, normally I think this wouldn't be that big of a deal if we just had like maybe a YCS or like a couple of regionals. But it is, in fact, one of the most important months in the TCG year or season is this July, where you have like the Worlds qualifying tournaments are all taking place in this format before Justice Hunters, which is why it's still so important and so interesting to look at. So Vanquish Soul was doing pretty well. Orchist is, interestingly enough, the next biggest deck in top 64 with 4 representatives in top 64, and of course also being the deck that took down the entire event, followed by, what even is this? Gem Knights. Yeah, Gem Knights. Orchist and Gem Knights are decks number 4 and 5, alongside Ryzeal, which of course there's more than 3 Ryzeal decks in Top Cut. Some of the Mitsurugi decks are playing Ryzeals, but these are more like the Onomat Ryzeals, or maybe there was a Heraldic Ryzeal as well. I'm not sure exactly how these divided. We could probably find out. Let me count the Ryzeals. We have an Onomat Ryzeal here in top 64. We have another Onomat Ryzeal here in top 32, and then it was Mario D'Amico in top 8 with another Onomat. So there was no Heraldic, which is kind of what I anticipated. I said in previous weeks, Onomat Ryzeal just feels like a better version of Heraldic Ryzeal in a lot of ways. So it's been performing better than Heraldic Ryzeal here. And then after this, we just basically have an entire a bunch of decks that have made Top Cut as either a 1 of or a 2 of. For the most of these, I think it is about the numbers you would expect. Like you see 2 Blue Eyes, a White Forest, an Evil Twin, a Punk deck, 2 Mermail, 2 Memento, a Goblin Biker. Those are like numbers you expect, except for Goblin Biker maybe. I want to take a look at the Goblin Biker list in a second. The one deck I feel like that has been underperforming, not only at this tournament, but also at the Oceanics a while ago, is Lunalight. Lunalight is an interesting phenomenon because it has basically, it's scaring everybody, right? Lunalight is scaring everybody. Everyone is considering in deck building right now, do I have an answer to these towers potentially? Should I be scared of Lunalight? Should I prepare my, how much should I prepare my deck for this this 1 out of 20 plus playable rogue decks, it seems like at the moment. And it's like, for how many people are scared at the moment, I find it quite interesting how little like people actually play Lunalight, if that makes sense, right? Like you see a lot of people talking about Lunalight and kind of respecting it, but then no one actually does the thing and plays it for an event. And I think it's an interesting thing that's happening where if you play Lunalight yourself, the thing is you basically are hoping that, let's say you're playing a 12-round tournament and you play Lunalight. It's about like all 12 of your opponents, it really depends on how well they're prepared, right? Like when just 4 out of your 12 opponents, which is like a third, if every third of your opponents is well prepared for Lunalight, then you just you just have a very, very hard time, right? And that's even disregarding the other loose conditions that a deck naturally has, you know, like bricking, like just being hand trapped normally, you know, there's like, those are just normal things to lose to that any deck can lose to. I mean, some decks are weaker to it than others, but like Lunalight seems like a deck that, you know, sometimes you get impermed on Gold Leo and you pass, or sometimes you just don't have a 1-card combo starter and you pass, or sometimes they have other combinations of hand traps like Ash and Bestial or whatever, and then you might pass to that, or, you know, there's a couple of loose conditions the deck has. Plus, if you ever decide to like pull through a Fuvalos, because you're like, oh, I'm going to put up 2 towers. There's no way they're prepared. And then they are prepared, because some people will be prepared for that. You have a tough time. Like, for example, I think we saw Lunalight on feature match at the NAWCQ just lose to a Regenesis deck because they had Lava Golem in their deck, you know, which is just like a random thing that people are doing in Regenesis to respect Lunalight a little bit more. And all of a sudden, a matchup that might otherwise be unlosable if they don't have an out to your towers, all of a sudden they give you a Lava Golem and it's over, right? So Lunalight is an interesting phenomenon for this format, I think, where I 100% understand why people are scared to play it, but I also 100% understand why people are scared to play against it, which puts it in this weird limbo between, if you ever have the feeling that people are disrespecting Lunalight too much, then you could show up to a tournament and then play Lunalight. But you got to have a good feeling for that, right? You got to have a good understanding and be able to make a good prediction, because if your prediction goes wrong, you're going to have a terrible time in the tournament, right? So that's Lunalight. One deck that unfortunately did not make top 64 that I was really rooting for was Sky Striker. And I think, unfortunately, even as a Sky Striker enjoyer, I don't think we can put this one on people just didn't play it, because I'm very certain there was a decent amount of people trying their luck with Sky Strikers, because it's just one of those fan favorite decks, right? Like it's got a lot of people that like it. So, and we did see it on stream as well. So I think people played it at this tournament. It's just not something that was able to perform, unfortunately. You know, I think Sky Striker is a fine deck, but like if people are able to top with decks like with all these different kinds of decks, you know, like White Forest, Evil Twin Punk, Lunalight, Memento, Goblin Biker, if all these decks are able to sneak 1 or 2 into top cut, and Sky Striker can't, even though I'm pretty sure there were more people playing Sky Striker than people playing Goblin Bikers at this tournament, I would bet that. Maybe even more Sky Striker than White Forest, to be honest, or Evil Twins, or Punk. If we can't even get 1 into the top 64, it might just be a sign that the deck is just a little bit underwhelming in terms of power level, which is how I felt about it too, unfortunately. Yeah. Is Sky Striker Tenpai a thing in the TCG? Not really. No. It also is basically a completely different deck. So, no, it's not really a thing, no. But yeah, Sky Striker underperformed. But okay, let's talk about the decks that performed really well. And those are 2 decks out of Battles of Legends. And I gotta say, I was wrong when it came to Battles of Legends. I said the Battles of Legends like delay in Europe wasn't that big of a deal because the set is not that impactful, and all of a sudden the NAWCQ happens and Orchist and Gem Knight are like 2 of the top performing decks of the tournament. There was a Gem Knight that qualified for Worlds. We're gonna take a look at the profile in a second. And there was an Orchist Fiendsmith that won the entire thing and obviously also qualified for Worlds. So that is kind of crazy. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I expected Orchis to do decently well, you know, maybe get a couple in top cut, but win the entire thing is very impressive. As well as Gem Knight, which is a deck that I didn't even have on my radar. In my defense with Gem Knight, I just haven't really looked into it because it is not out for the EU WCQ, right? We can't play the deck because the set has been delayed. And so I basically stopped looking into Battles of Legends because I was trying to use my time efficiently and not look at decks that are not even going to be legal for Euros. But I am interested to see how this deck works now with how they've been able to perform, and I want to give some spotlight, of course, to someone who's able to perform so well with Gem Knight. So let's take a look at Gem Knight and Orchist, and for these ones, I actually want to watch the deck profile instead of just looking at the list because I am interested in these players' explanations of what this deck is supposed to do. So let me see. get this deck profile in here.
Brutal here at the 2025 NAWCQ with, whoa, third place himself. Please introduce to the world, man.
Isaiah, shout out, and I played Gem Knights for the event.
Why Gem Knights, man?
My friend told me to read the cards of the event a couple weeks before because I don't want to play any of the mainstream decks, and these cards just seemed really high quality for all the cards. And one of the dudes, there was a regional top for going second, and I saw it and I was really interested, so I kept playing it and I took it to Nats.
Okay, that's what's up. Any shout outs before we begin?
Austin Ober for telling me to read these cards. Shout out all the boys back at Idaho. All the boys here still with me?
Yes, sir.
This is something I noticed during the coverage over the course of the weekend as well, where a lot of these players that were doing well with the rogue decks, when they were asked in the interviews, like, hey, why are you playing this deck? They were all just like, I don't know, vibes, you know, read the cards like a week ago, thought they were cool, built the deck and went with it. I feel like that I think Willie, the player that won with Orcus, said something like along those lines as well. He's just like, yeah, Orcus is not that great, but I think it's cool.
Sweet. Without further ado, please show us the third place.
Is it still FTK Turbo? No. So that's the interesting part with Gem Knights. It is no longer. It's funny because Gem Knight has done a full 360 basically, and completely turned everything on its head. Instead of being an FTK deck, which is some of the most, of course, stupid going first stuff you can do, it is now a blind second OTK deck, which is it's kind of funny how it's just made that switch. 180, yeah, okay, nerd.
It's good.
All right, so I played a lot of cards for going second because we're blinding. It was 8 charms in the main, and this is the only hand traps I played. Just kind of put them on a half board and then just kill them. And then for the actual Gem Knight cards, it's 3 Nephrim. This is just Stratos that gives you double normals.
It's more than Stratos. I even know that because I read it when they had a feature match. Like, this even summons itself from the graveyard, right? When it's sent there from hand or field or from hand or deck or something. So it's like, yeah, it's Stratos that summons itself from the graveyard and gives you an extra normal summon, which is pretty crazy.
2 Armadillo. This is also just Stratos for any Gem Knight. 2 Holocore. It's kind of like circular. It's send, summon it, and it's a negate in the graveyard.
Don't say it like that.
3 Quartz. It sets Brilliant Fusion or the new one, Scatter Fusion from Pope.
Scatter.
And these are the only Gem Knight. It's only 10 Gem Knight monsters. I played nothing else.
So I'm gonna ask because I am an old school Gem Knight player. What made you choose only those Gem Knights?
These are the new ones. They're all modern. The only that's old is Armadillo, but that's because it adds any Gem Knight. All the ones don't do anything.
Have you considered?
It's funny because you can tell the one filming says they're an old school Gem Knight player, and he's just like, I just read these cards a week ago. I mean, what do you want from me? I don't even know the old cards. It's like when someone has picked up the modern version of Blue Eyes a week ago, and someone is telling them, why are you not playing Jet Dragon? And they're like, I don't even know what that card does. What do you want from me, Unk?
The Primate Engine?
No.
Are you playing the Brilliant Rose or the Rose monsters?
I'll show you later. There's a lot.
All right.
And then some engine requirements. I played Protoss and Flag for going first because later on people kept making me go first, and this was at least some game plan going first. And then some other engine requirements are just these were later in here.
I mean, yeah, it's unfortunately, it seems like this deck is able to make a rank 4 to search, to make Banshee, to search Flag, to make Protoss. And it also seems like the deck is also capable of making Paradise Smasher. And so the deck is capable of doing something when it's sent first, which is obviously cringe. And the next ban list needs to fix Protoss for sure. Shaddoll's base, though, I really like the inclusion of Shaddol Fusion in this deck. Hasn't actually resolved on stream when they drew it, but it still was pretty cool because in one game The Shaddoll Fusion just outed the detonator because they activated it and the opponent was like, okay, I'm gonna pop my own detonator. It's gone now.
Some people don't know what this does. You just target a monster on field, and neither player can activate that monster's effect while it's on the field. So you're like, you'll Shaddoll Fusion, send this, target cross, and then send this off construct and target detonator. So that's it.
Break the entire board.
Something important to note, that also freezes the Luna Lighter.
Yep. And then all the cards that like fusion summon in the deck. So you have Brilliant Fusion, Scatter Fusion, Shaddoll Fusion.
Oh, Scatter Fusion is a one-of. Okay.
These are all fuse from deck cards. These are all the like.
Why does it have 4 different fuse from deck cards?
Broken cards. This one is just like, you'll have like 9 cards people want to Ash, and this is the 4th. Like 12. So they have a bunch of cards people want to Ash, and they don't have enough, like, you don't have Ash Impulse, you still have too many. And then, like, generic going second good cards is 2 Sales Ban. It's good into Liger too, you can call Liger once you get rid of the Silverhound negate. 2 Lightning Storm and Gust Surge, clearing back row, good in most things. Probably the best going second card in my deck. This card carried me so bad. This card is so good this weekend. And then 1 Thrust. I didn't want to like lose the roll too badly, which is 1. And then 1 Talon, obviously. And then the brick.
I do have to ask, because Gem-Knight Dispersion has 2 effects. Have you drawn double Dispersion and used both effects on the same turn?
Oh, every game I do that. It's impossible not to.
What was it made that count, man?
41.
Nice, respect.
Right.
Alright, and now for all these fusion monsters. So, start with the old ones. We got Aquamarine, Prismara, the OG, Ruby, Topaz, Master Diamond, and Lady Brilliant. These are all the old ones people played.
I don't know what any of this means, except for Seraphonite.
These are a lot of these are like have really weird effects. Like this pierces, which matters, and it gains attack. So like in the pure Mitsu and like other Mitsu's, they'll stuff like a Kusanagi with no defense, and you just like pierce them for like 5,000 damage and kill them.
Jeez.
And this one is like, this is the one you copy the most with Master Diamond. So it gives it 2 attacks and it burns them equal to the damage it kills. So just attack them twice and like burn them for like 5k.
Double wingman, basically.
So it's just basically, is the way this deck OTKs by just summoning a bunch of the Gem-Knight fusions and attacking, and you basically get to choose, depending on how your opponent's board looks, you can choose different ones to like summon and copy. Because like, let's say they have a bunch of stuff in defense mode, you have the option to go piercing. If they have like some monsters with decently high attack, you can make the one that like you attack and then burn them for the attack points. That kind of, is it like that kind of vibe where you just like piece together an OTK depending on how your opponent's board looks like? Or you can like, maybe you can, if something is too big, you can pop it with Prismora. Okay.
The other one's like summons anything for extra deck, copies, double normal, everyone knows this. Bounce a card on field, and then pop a card, face a card.
Okay, bounce a card, pop a card. So they have removal for the stuff that's too big, and then for everything that isn't that big, you either attack it and burn them for it, or if it's in defense mode, you pierce over it. Okay.
These are all like the weird ones.
Okay.
And then the new ones are Gem-Knight, Lady Rose Diamond, and Dispersion. This is just detonator, but only on your turn. Every time your opponent activates a card, banish a Gem-Knight, target card, pop it. Not once per turn, not once per chain. There's so many people like, they would do a card in response, I'd be like, chain. They'd like, do something else, chain. They're like, it's almost per turn. Happened all weekend. People didn't know. And this is just summons any 3 from extra deck, ignoring summoning condition.
This guy is crazy. This is just like, what is it? Tribute itself to summon 3 from extra deck? Nah.
This card has killed everyone today.
Yeah.
And the other card is Construct. Just for the Shaddoll Fusion. Send Nephrim, it's Engine. It's nice. Send Dragon. Banshee, Protoss. 2 Phantom Courts. This is like a great link. It's on summon, search anything, pay 1,000, and then fusion summon any Gem-Knight by shuffling monsters from your good banish. So it lets you kind of play under Shifter too. It shows the banish zone. And you play 2 because like occasionally one will get an idiot and you'll just link it off into another one. Just fusion summon.
Yeah, that card's also very good.
And then Donner, this is just the Bagoo Scout.
Why do they keep printing cards that pop not once per chain? I mean, I don't have the biggest issue with that kind of card. Like, I think a not once per turn pop is not that big of a problem. I guess you could make it once per chain. Yeah, I guess I agree with that.
That was a card that I was struggling with for a while. And the last one is Dogurad.
Who the hell is Dogurad? This feels rather recent. I feel like I've seen this not so long ago. Dogurad, the Stone Trooper, is from Alliance Insight. Yeah, it is not that old. 2+ monsters, including a rock monster. It's a Link 3. If this card is special summoned, target a rock in your grave. This card gains attack equal to that monster's attack during your opponent's main phase. Target one of the monsters on the field that's attacking this card. Okay.
That's the
yeah, if it's Link summoned, you target a rock in grave and it gains attack equal to the Link monster, equal to its attack. And then quick effect on your opponent's turn, you can reduce its attack by one of their monster attacks. If it does, it destroys it. So it kills things weaker than it. So it's a nice another going first plan you can kind of work with. It also gets really big because of how big the Gemite fusions are. That's 15. And then side deck.
So it's basically just a big Link 3 that is a quick effect pop during the opponent's turn. Doesn't seem that crazy, but it's probably just like a plan B.
Malice was the matchup I was kind of worried about because White Bind and them were really good in this deck. So it was 3 Lancia on the side, 2 Chaos Hunter and Meows. The matchup was really hard. Also, this was like decent into like playing against Murmel. I put this in. He was trying to like bury Sashi Lock and he just stopped it. Like Minstrel. Come up.
Question: did people say that Lancia against you?
Some people did. The most common one was DD Crow.
Is Lancia good against this deck? Because it stops the Hollow Core negate. It stops them from adding back Gemnite Fusion. But other than that, it doesn't seem that good. I guess it's really good if you compare it with Nibiru, right? Like because if you have Nibiru plus Lancia, they just can't negate your Nib. That seems decent, right? Because I think the only negate for a Nib that they have is the Hollow Core. So that's like fine, I guess, right? So if you're playing Nibiru in your deck, you could consider siding Lancia. You know, it's not the worst.
After that, it was just 3 draw. I was afraid of getting Protos. I wanted something to draw into off of Charmies that would stop me from getting Protos. And then these ones, I played 5 Kaijus.
Oh, wow.
Kaijus?
So there was a couple reasons. Vanquish I thought would be kind of popular, and this is decent with it. The other one was like Lunalight was in testing the hardest matchup.
Okay, fair enough.
And this is like clears most of the board because you give them 1, and then the fusion monster next strike when it's sent to the grave. It targets a card on field and returns it to the hand. So you bounce back your own Kaiju and then give it back to them out to both lighters.
That's neat.
Oh, very nice.
That's neat.
And like some people, and the other one was Castel and Featherstorm. People were like just not shotgun it. You just give this and then before they can do it.
Oh, geez.
That just feels bad.
And the last card was mainly for Vanquish Soul. If I went first, it was Babushka. It's just, if I went first, I would just side this in and like some game. It won me a couple games against Vanquish Soul, but that was just the game plan going first. Goose.
Okay, I mean, I set this on stream already. I don't actually. I feel like whenever a deck like this one pops up in the metagame, the community is a little divided by it because some people just think like the like going second OTK stuff is like inherently not very fun, which is I guess a fine opinion to have. I think that's fair enough, but I think generally I am fine with the existence of a deck like this one because from watching it, even though it seemed very strong, it seemed way more interactive than Tenpai. Is how my first impression of it. It's still like, of course, there needs to be some level of powerful or some level of broken or some level of you don't have just one choke point when you're trying to make a going second deck work, right? Like a going second deck with one clear choke point is never going to work because your opponent is always going to have some disruption for that one choke point. So like it has to have like ways to play around choke points. It has to have some very powerful cards for going second. but this deck just felt like a way more reasonable version of Tenpai, mostly because I feel like this deck does something that, or does not do something that Tenpai did that made it super obnoxious, which was the fact that I feel like most of the non-engine cards that people play, except for Charmies, of course, they do something against this deck, right? Like, whether it's an Effect Veiler or Imperm or Ash Blossom or Ghost Ogre or even Nibiru, they need to hold the negate for it. If they use the negate on something else, you can still nib them later. So like all of those cards are solid against it. Whereas like, or like even like graveyard interactions like DD Crow and something, like if you have enough of those cards, you can always do something against the deck, paired with whatever your deck already does. And in like in Tenpai, I feel like the difference was just most of the cards your opponent was playing were not doing anything unless they drew a very specific card. Like for example, Ghost Ogre against Tenpai usually did nothing unless they opened the field spell. Or Effect Veiler, there's like half of their starters don't care about Effect Veiler, and so on and so forth. It was always like a Nib was always completely dead. DD Crow was never good enough on its own, and so on and so forth, right? And so that was always, it was super frustrating. Like you open Nibiru, Effect Veiler, Ghost Ogre or something, you still lose to one Kaiman, you know? And I just don't think this deck has this kind of level of toxic to it, you know what I mean? Like if your opponent opens 3 hand traps, you're gonna have to play through those three hand traps. You're gonna have to maneuver that, because there's no, I don't think there is cards that just ignore it completely. Unless, I mean, of course, yeah, if your opponent draws like the completely wrong ones, like I don't know, 3 Effect Veilers, and you have like a Brilliant Fusion, a Shaddoll Fusion, and whatever, like you're probably cooking them. But like, there's no card that basically doesn't matter against this deck, and I think that makes it healthier. Also, it seemed a lot more complicated to play, which I think is an important factor with a deck like this, because that just means it is more skill rewarding for both players, you know, because against Tenpai, for both of the players, it wasn't really like, you know, the Tenpai player just did their thing, and for you playing against Tenpai, it also wasn't like, it wasn't giving you that much thingies. It's not complicated. Look, I'm not saying it's complicated. I'm saying it's more complicated than Tenpai, which I feel like is an argument that you can't win right now. I don't know what you are. I don't know what you are trying to say right now. But yeah, cool. I think it's cool that a deck like that exists. Definitely gonna have to look into it once the set comes out in Europe. But for now, unfortunately for us, it doesn't matter. All right, and then we of course have the big one, the winner of the entire event, which I also want to take a quick look at, which is Orchest Fiendsmith. Not even including Mitsurugi, which I feel like was the most hyped version of Orchest in advance to this tournament. I think Orchest Mitsurugi was a deck that a lot of people anticipated. Fiendsmith Orchest, not so much, but it was able to win the entire thing. Yeah, let's just hear it from Willie.
What's going on, everybody? Solo Games here with World's Qualifier North American 2025 champion Wilfredo Flores. Here with everybody here. The same chance you are hearing on stream, we are all here for our hero, the boy himself, the GOAT, everyone's GOAT now. Congrats, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I wish I wasn't sick, but I guess it worked out to my favor.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan flu game, baby.
Yeah.
So, what'd you finish in Swiss?
I finished X2 in Swiss.
Okay. So
10-2 in Swiss, and then all the wins in top 64. That makes it an overall record of 16-2, which is very impressive. And look, I have I've seen some people talking about this in like from the angle of, oh, he just won the finals because the opponent misplayed. Which, first of all, if your opponent misplays, you still deserve to win. Like you were the better player in that one match because your opponent did something wrong. And also, even if you would have lost the finals, if Aditya played correctly, it would have still been an insane achievement to go all the way to the finals, qualify for Worlds, and all that with Orcust Fiendsmith. So like, yeah, he won game 3 because the opponent messed up, but that's part of the game. And still definitely deserved the win because of it. And I think it's crazy to try and take away from this victory by saying like, oh yeah, just won because of misplay. Like, because definitely wasn't in the finals just because everyone else was misplaying. Like, they definitely had to have done a lot of things right as well to get to that point in the first place. So it's crazy. Also, I can make it louder. The only problem is everyone else is super loud. And they're super quiet, so we'll see how it works out.
Give me a quick tidbit. How you feeling like after all of this, man? You have this wonderful trophy and the legendary signature on the camera.
Yeah, dude, he kept the lens
itself, man.
Dude, let him keep the lens. That's goated.
I'm super happy right now. I can't believe this is actually true. And by the way, guys, Konami told me to do this.
Dude.
So you guys know.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't take a pen out of my hair. So just like let you guys know. So.
All right, so let me just quickly go. So you got trophy, the signature camera. This is the full set of Duelist and this is Allied Insight. You get a full set. This has every card in. It's basically a master set. Right. All the QCRs, every card in there. Same thing with this one. Suda. Okay. You got a Steam Deck. You got a whole bunch of packs. Now you got the weren't you supposed to tell us about new pricing? All right, we'll worry about that later. But you did get the card trooper, this beautiful card trooper. You got double prize card. Wait,
bro, they pulled Blue Eyes?
Did you open your promo pack?
Yeah, just happened to be Blue Eyes. That's crazy.
Yo, must be nice.
They're the main character.
Double winner, and you got the Blue Eyes. That Veiler, oh god, that Veiler's crazy. All right, so why Orcust?
Why Orcust? It's a deck that doesn't lose to Droll and Lockbird, so most game ones are pretty bad. Like, they have dead cards in their deck, like Peruli is not good against.
How much is that Blue Eyes? I have no idea. I mean, the thing is, these are the first couple of tournaments that are getting us these cards, so we're gonna have to wait and see how much they're worth. But I've heard some crazy numbers on the Effect Veiler. I have no idea about the Blue Eyes from the pack, like all the cards from the pack. I have no idea. The Blue Eyes are like 600. That's crazy. 600 is crazy.
It's me. Droll's not good against me. Most people don't main deck Bystials or DD Crow.
But yeah, I mean, it's. I know one Veiler got sold for 1.5k. That is also insane, though, right? I mean, look, it's what we've always been asking for, right? It was so simple. It was so simple to make so many people so much more happy for topping these tournaments. If you just do this one thing, right? Just print a fancy card with a fancy logo on it, and there you go. You know, and now you make top 16 at one of these tournaments instead of just feeling empty because you got so close and you got very little for it. You can make, if you make 4 digits off that, you know, like no one's gonna complain about that. Just off of the Effect Veiler, you know, you get other stuff too, but like if just the Effect Veiler gives you 4 digits, like it's done, you know. How much is the Card Trooper? I have no idea how much the Card Trooper is. The Card Trooper is going to be significantly less than the Effect Veiler, right? Because there's like 4 times as many because you get it for top 64 instead of top 16. So there's like 4 times as many, and it's a less popular card. Someone in chat is saying like it was 500. I don't know if that's true. That seems a lot for the Card Trooper. But if it actually is 500, I would be very pleasantly surprised with that. If that's 500, that's also very, very good for top 64 or 128. If it's really 500, that would be very, very good for the competitive community.
So it moves off to game like 2 and 3.
But yeah.
I don't know who lied to you, man. I got sent in the Shadow Realm by DD Crows in the main deck. What?
Only 128 Card Troopers in the world. There's gonna be more, right? 64 from this one, 64 from Euros, 64 from like there's I don't know how many Oceanics had and how many they gave out in Central and South America, right? There's more than 128. But also, I'm gonna get back into the deck profile in a second. I don't want to ramble about this too long. But like, there's also the argument that like these are gonna return for future YCSs, right? But then they're gonna have a different logo, which could be a big deal. Technically, the WCQ logo is going to be the rarest one because we're gonna have more. YCS ones, right? Oh, it's top 32 only. Okay, yeah, then it's less than I thought. Yeah, maybe then it's more expensive than I thought. Yeah.
But hey, good brackets, good play, phenomenal plays.
Yep.
All worked out. So
Maybe it makes no difference. I don't know.
once again,
Yeah.
one more time. Give me some shout outs.
Let's focus on the deck.
Oh, I have too many. Now I have to name them all. All here.
Wait, what's your name again? This is the Ethan, everybody. Hi, Ethan.
Hello, Ethan.
American actor Pedro.
He sneaks into one other video.
Back to cheddar.
Bro, Stunlock.
All right, let's jump right into the list.
Okay. So my Orcus cards: 2 skeleton, 3 harp, 3 Girsu, 1 crescendo, 1 babble, and foolish because you know Orcus.
This is the first thing I want to note here, which is I feel like it's very unusual, but there is no other Orcust cards in this deck. There is no Nightmare. There is no World Wand. Of course, the World Crown is here, but like the essentially just using a very, very, very small Orcust good stuff package.
Card, right?
Wait, hold on.
Which is super interesting.
There's no wand, no nightmare.
Nope.
I know there's bricks, but those are basically like the cement back in like what? How old is Orcus again when it first came out, you guys?
2019.
And those were like engine requirements. Why not anymore?
Now they're just luxuries. You don't need them. They're all
Pre-watched? What do you mean pre-watched? We watched it on stream. They said it on stream over the weekend that those cards were not in there.
cards. They're 2 bricks that don't help. They're all the same. They all get you 1 body. So you might as well just have the good ones only, right?
So what's the plan then? Okay, I understand what you do when you draw Girsu, right? Girsu is by far the best one. When you normal summon Orcust Harp Horror, are you just using it as like a 1 card that gives you it gives you Fiendsmith combo, right? Because you normal summon Harp, you make Galatea Eye, you send a card to grab the World Crown, and then you special the World Crown, and that's 2 bodies. And I don't believe Galatea does not lock you into darks, right? So Galatea does not lock you into dark, so you just go normal summon any Orcust, pitch a card from your hand, grab the World Crown, special the World Crown. There you go. That's a moon. And if you opened with Harp Horror, it's a moon that afterwards you can use Harp to special Girsu from deck, right? So after you're done with the Fiendsmith stuff, whether your opponent has hand trapped it or not, you can use Harp Horror to extend into an Orcust line. So basically, Harp / Girsu are like 1 card combo Fiendsmith plus Crescendo, pretty much, right? And but the only thing that I'm uncertain about is why are we playing 2 Symbol Skeleton? Because all the things I just said about the Harp Horror are not necessarily true about the are they true about the Symbol Skeleton? Because if you go normal summon Symbol Skeleton, link off Galatea Eye, send a card from your hand to get the World Crown, special the World Crown, you make Fiendsmith combo, but then what does the Symbol Skeleton in your graveyard really do? I guess you can bring back Galatea Eye with it? Or does it say like you can only special it once per turn or something? Skeleton plus this card makes Caesar plus Crescendo plus Galatea plus Paradise setup. Yes, you can. Okay, then then the Skeleton is also a very good starter. You know, this is interesting because it fixes some of the problems I had with Orchist, which was that when I was testing the deck, which is, mind you, a while ago, because I tested Orchist when I was still under the impression that it was going to be legal for German nationals / Euros. So this is like two months ago or something. I tried Orchist, and of course I was trying a more classic Orchist list, but I had consistency problems with it, and I also did not enjoy drawing some of those cards that they cut from the deck. So I think that's pretty cool. And basically, one thing that I also wasn't doing is I wasn't playing Fiendsmith in it. So a lot of my Orchist lines, I was way too focused on doing all the Orchist things, and if I didn't draw an Orchist card, I had nothing to do. Which in this case, they have replaced some of the bad Orchist starters with Fiendsmith cards, which means that if you don't draw any Orchist cards, chances are you're going to have some non-engine and an engraver or something, and you can still cook, which is cool. So I think this is a pretty neat concept. Now I need one last thing. I need you to tell me one last thing because I don't remember, because it's been a while since I tried Orchist. Galatea I. Do you discard or do you send any card from your hand to the grave or a monster? Because if you can send anything, and are you telling me I can send Fiendsmith in Paradise from my hand if I brick on it? Any? Oh, that's perfect. Oh, dude, finally a deck that can just discard Paradise. I'm so happy.
Okay.
And at least these ones are normal summable. If I draw Nightmare, I'm gonna stare at it. So, and then off to the Fiendsmith cards. The one Paradise, the 2-track, Lurie, Lacrima, Engraver. They might look like a familiar
2 engraver.
in your hand.
Never mind.
So just the standard
Dude, they had me for a second.
Fiendsmith cards.
So, quick tidbit.
I mean, this deck, just a brief summary of what we've seen so far. 2 engines that are not particularly weak to Droll and Lockbird. I mean, sometimes you're going to open Engraver, you get Drolled when you add Track. That's going to suck. That's going to happen sometimes. For the most part, I think this deck is probably weakest into Fuva out of all of the non-engine that people are playing at the moment, right? Fuva seems like a very strong card if you pair Orchist and Fiendsmith. I'm not sure how good the backup plans are for Orchist against Fuva, because Fiendsmith I know doesn't have a great backup plan. But yeah. Also, yeah, of course, Fiendsmith is a good plan when you get Lancet. Yeah, that's nice.
On that one. So you're playing Tracked, 2 of them, and you're saying that Droll is bad.
Yep. I pray for them to draw me on Tracked or Engraver.
Oh, because you're not getting Charmy.
Yeah, I don't have to get Charmy.
I think that's a good point. When you have an average hand of this deck, like let's say you have an Orchist card, you have a Fiendsmith card, and you start with Tracked, and they drolled you, I think you are incredibly happy.
That's even better for me.
Because Fuva is good against this deck.
The hand traps.
Yeah.
The legendary Baldry.
Oh, don't worry, that guy has friends. 2 Nib, 3 Ash, 3 Droll, and then the mandatory in every deck.
Yeah, I mean this is a very standard hand trap lineup. You just play the Ash, the Perulia, the Fuva, the Droll. You play the Ash in every deck that is weak to Charmies, and then whatever else you have on top of that is basically personal preference. At the moment.
3 Droplet and Called By.
Ooh, Droplet as well. We do a little bit of board breaking here. All right.
Oh, I forgot the best card in the deck. World Crown.
Oh, I was wondering where it was in the Orchist card. The legend itself.
Yeah, it changes its text when you read it every time.
Dude, no. Too soon.
I thought it was a brick.
Roger's drawing Exodia.
And then off to the side deck. Oh, more friends. 2 more. That's why you keep seeing this card. 3 Lancia, 2 Thrusts, 3 Mistaken Arrest, Mischief of Gnomes, D-Barrier, and 3 Imperm. If you notice, my side deck sucks for Malice. That's why game 2, when I lose game 1, I'm like, you can go first. And they're like, oh, I have more Charmies in my hand. What am I gonna do? And I'm sighting in 8 more hand traps.
I mean, yeah, I think that in general is it's a scary tactic, you know? It's a scary tactic to just be like send some of the more powerful decks in the format first. But I think specifically in decks that are very weak to Charmies, I can see it being a good play. I'm gonna be honest with you. Of course, like in a format with 6 or even 9 Mold Charmies in some decks against some decks, I could imagine people siding Meowls against this deck as well if they play it, right? Because Schmidt and Orcust also does some reviving from the graveyard, so like Meowls is probably a decent card against this deck too. Like when people are doing that, which everyone is doing that at the moment, everyone is main decking 3 or more commonly 6 Charmies and maybe siding some more. Like just catching someone off guard and sending them first is not the worst idea I've heard. Like this is not something, especially in a deck that's weak to Fuva. I think that's a reasonable thing to do, to just be like, yeah, you can go first.
Into them. So I'm gonna throw at least 3 hand traps into them on their turn.
So why, you know, Mouse is ignorant. That is like the most ignorant, the most best game 1 decks in the room, and you literally just said, I'll be blind. This deck is not real. This deck is not viable.
I mean, they are prepared for it though, right? It's not necessarily true. They have Lancias in there. What else can you? I mean, yeah, you can put Chaos Hunter on top of that or Meowls, but they're not like underprepared to it, right? They got the Fuva, the Perulia in the main deck. They got the Lancia in the side deck. I don't think they are not prepared for Malice. They are. I think it's more like that matchup is inherently difficult for this deck, right? Because Whitebinder is a menace and non-target banish is a menace for this deck. So it's a difficult matchup. So maybe they are underprepared relative to how difficult the matchup is. I guess that's a better way to put it. But like they didn't like completely ignore it in deck building.
That is the most crazy stuff that I've ever heard.
It's funny because I played 5 of them.
Yeah, you played 5 of them in Top Cut.
Yeah. I played 5 of them and it was crazy.
Yo, I am sorry, you guys. You watching his profile, you saw on the Konami blog. This man did not have nothing for y'all.
It's such a classic Malice L. I love it.
Other than the Lancey in a dream.
Yeah, truly Lancey in a dream. And then off to the extra, where's monsters? 1 Galatea, long ear suit of this.
Oh yeah, this high.
Oh yeah.
Legend himself.
Oh, the guy that takes away Protos. And Dingirsu. And then off to the Fiendsmith cards. Everyone loves these cards, don't they? Oh look.
Yeah, we do.
These also win games by themselves too.
Oh
no
man.
need for Orcus.
I love Fiendsmith.
And then
no
Caesar.
Necroquip, surely.
This card that does nothing apparently. I haven't made that card. I made that card once all day. Or all weekend long. And then
say it ain't so. There's got to be a Necroquip.
Now we're going into main phase 2.
Oh yeah, okay.
Gonna send the engraver back to the graveyard.
Yeah, it was 14.
Necroquip. Yes.
I was about to say.
Off the top of the head, what would Chaos Angel?
Okay, come on. How is no one noticing that this is 14? How are there 20 people in this room looking at the way they laid out these cards in a perfectly symmetric 5-5-4 and are like, what's number 15? no one's asking anything. Why is there nothing?
Replacement. He said he never summoned it.
Dark, gloomy.
Oh yeah, there's no dark in here. That's like the best friend of the deck.
Yeah. It would be, but most of the time the American was banished. I have 5 Bestials, and that guy always gets banished. I haven't had that guy. I think that guy resolved once to Regeki, the entire tournament.
That's crazy. Hey, that's good work. It was all perfect for you. Well,
yep.
Thank you very much. Gonna go back to locals like it's just another day, and everyone's like, "Wait, you won?"
Yep, another day at locals. Yep.
Congrats, man. Hopefully you start getting ready now to.
Oh, it's a cool deck. I like it. I actually think it's a good deck that like I think this deck is as good as any other deck right now with the it's just like a small, what's it called? A small adjustment with this deck. I think is weaker into Fuba than some other decks in the format right now, but it is much better into Droll. So like it's not like net better or net worse than other decks in that regard. It's just like slightly better into one of the most popular cards in the format and slightly worse into one of the other most popular card in the format, right? Like because the by far the most popular non-engine right now is Droll and Fuvalos, right? And I mean Purulia also, but I feel like there's more people that are not main decking Purulia than people that are not main decking Fuva. Fuva is definitely like basically a staple in everything. So yeah. Also, it's just a small thing, but I do like the fact that this deck inherently just discards a card from the hand. So when you draw a Charmy going first, it's not a big deal to you, right? That's just, it's more like a feel-good moment, right? Because like if you're playing a deck that doesn't discard, having a dead card in your hand just feels worse. But in this deck, you're just going to be able to get rid of the Charmy all the time when you're going first, and that's just like a neat little bonus. Of course, the unfortunate part is that this deck is not going to be legal for Euros. We cannot play it because the Battles of Legends cards are not out in Europe yet. We are getting them delayed in August, which is after the EU WCQ. But I am sure by the time that these cards release, of course, everyone is going to have their focus on Justice Hunters. I'm still going to see and maybe go back to this and see if it's worth trying in the TCG in August, because it is a pretty cool deck. I like Orchest. I really like the fact that we have been able to trim a lot of the bad draws out of the deck, you know, like out of this Orchest engine, the only ones that are bad to draw are like the Field Spell and the Crescendo, but those are still really good draws. If you have an Orchest card with those, then they are just a bonus, right? Like you don't mind drawing one of these if you can play with Orchest cards. So that is cool. And overall, I thought it was a great tournament run, of course, and being able to take it all the way is very, very cool. Yeah, pretty sick. Euros are next weekend. Yes, Euros are next weekend. Or like, well, depending on how you look at it, when you say next weekend, they are not in 3 days, they are in 10 days, is when Euros is. So not like this week's weekend, the week after. Which is essentially exactly this format, just minus the Battles of Legends decks, right? So no Orchest, no Gem Knight, no Punk for Euros, and no Necros, which is the one that hurts the most. Necros not being there is the one that hurts the most by far. And no Dragon Maid. Yeah, true. No Dragon Maid either. Yeah, okay. I don't want to look at any more deck profiles, but what we can do is take a quick look at some of these lists, because I think most people that played an unusual deck did publish the list. So I think the Punk list is out here, which made top 32. Oh god. Not the Crunchy remix again. Okay. You still haven't fixed it? I don't know how. I've tried. Is it crunchy for you as well? Yes. Yes, it is. Okay. Punk Fiendsmith made top 32, which is also very impressive. And here's the thing. there's a couple of things I want to say about this, not this deck in particular, but just like just circling back to what I said earlier. This is another one of those decks that, while Punk is definitely not one of the strongest decks in the format right now, as long as you build your deck by a certain formula in the current format, you can compete with Malice and Ryzeal, right? And Mitsurugi, right? Because what we're seeing here is a strong engine paired with some Fiendsmith, solid non-engine choices for the format. Like I said earlier, no Perulia in this one, but Fuva, Droll, you know, Ash Imperm, Bestials, like solid non-engine, solid game plan for going first, and then you have a deck that can compete in the current format, right? And so, as much as the non-engine at the moment in TCG decks is repetitive, which it absolutely is. You know, you look at most of these top 64 decks, you're probably going to find Droll and Lockbird, you're probably going to find Charmies, you're probably going to find Ash Blossom. Those are very, very commonly used at the moment. But it is a recipe that makes almost any deck work, quote unquote, right? Like there's a lot of decks that are topping by using that recipe and just playing it well and so on and so forth. In this particular one, I think it's worth highlighting that I really, really like the inclusion of Fiendsmith Sanct. Honestly, it's something that I also would have probably considered in the Orcus deck that we just looked at. I think being able to engraver for Sanct is also very, very valuable. Of course, going second, you're not going to be able to attack with all of your cards if you use Sanct, but by using engraver into Sanct instead of engraver into Tract, you are searching a card that does allow you to still combo if you get rolled after, which is really good. And you also get to cut the Fabled Lurry from your deck, which is somewhat of a benefit in a deck that is already relatively normal summon heavy. So you don't want to normal summon a Lurry ever really in this deck, right? So I think Sanct is a solid choice. Of course, it can mess with Bestial sometimes, but other than that, I think it's an interesting inclusion in this deck in particular, and something that you know, Fiendsmith Engraver itself is a card that is unfortunately relatively weak into both Fuva and Droll, which are the most common non-engine in the format right now. So it's like, if you engraver for Sanct, at least you're not that weak to Droll and Lockbird. You're still weak to Fuva, but you're not that weak to Droll and Lockbird, which is neat. And then the other one I wanted to take a quick look at was the Goblin Biker deck that made top 64. Where was that? Goblin Biker Fiendsmith, which for all intents and purposes, not even a Charmy in the main deck is crazy. This, besides the fact that we're not playing Charmies, is basically the exact same concept, right? It's just we're playing Fiendsmith, we're playing non-engine, we're playing another engine that just goes well with Fiendsmith because it produces bodies and doesn't lock you super early. So like, you know, whether Goblin Biker, Punk, Orcus, Fiendsmith decks are still like a thing in the format. I think that's what this boils down to, right? Like you can still play Fiendsmith decks. Maybe not in the pure Fiendsmith control variation, but it's more like you play like a Fiendsmith combo deck, because I would classify the Goblin Biker deck, the Punk deck, and the Orcus deck. They are very, very similar concepts, even though, of course, like 50% of their main decks are different. They still follow a very similar style of game plan, right? It's just like a Fiendsmith hybrid variation with just a different engine that gets you going, right? Whether it's Punk or Goblin Biker or Orcus. I think it's a very similar concept, and it's obviously been proven by this event that these sort of decks work, because if you want to combine those decks into like basically if you go past like, okay, they're playing different archetypes to achieve the same thing, there's a couple of decks that are following this game plan, right, in this top 64 that you could technically group together under Fiendsmith decks, right? Like you could group the Goblin Biker deck with the Punk deck, with the Evil Twin deck, with some of the Orcus decks, which would make it like maybe even more popular than Vanquish Soul, right? Fiendsmith stuff was still probably the third most popular deck if you combine those decks together for this tournament. But the other versions don't have big Gabonga. I mean, yeah, they all... Here's the thing. Even though they have similar game plans, they all still have it's obviously there's more nuance to it than just oh, they're all the same. They're not the same deck. They are just similar. I'm sure the Goblin Biker deck has some advantages / disadvantages over the Punk cards, which has disadvantages or advantages over the Orchest cards, and so on and so forth, right? There's and evil, like the twin stuff as well is definitely going to be another set of cards that have their very own advantages and disadvantages. So finding, if you're looking to play one of those decks, I think trying all of these versions and finding the one that does the best for you in this format, because like, you know, the Punk cards, for example, they seem weaker into Droll Lockbird than, for example, the Orchest cards, which maybe is the reason why the Orchest deck was able to go all the way as opposed to this deck, right? I'm not sure what they lost to. I think actually we saw it on stream. Maybe I think it was they lost to Charlie, I think. But I don't know if it was to Droll Lockbird specifically. But yeah, Punk cards get wrecked by hand traps. I think that is only partially true, because the thing is, in this current format, there is very different types of hand traps, right? Like, there are the quote-unquote high-impact hand traps that people are playing, like the Charmies and the Drolls and the Perulias, Meowls, and so on and so forth, which, especially the Charmies, they don't stop you from playing, they just disincentivize you from playing. So it depends on how much is your deck able to do without giving your opponent infinite cards under a certain Charmy, which doesn't actually stop your deck, but I think Punk is notoriously relatively weak into Fuva. And then Droll Lockbird is another beast, where there's also a high impact hand trap, but it also is very, very individual on the deck. I would argue even, like, if you look at this deck breakdown, it's like Droll Lockbird is played because people put so much respect on Mitsurugi, Ryziel, but there's a lot of decks in this breakdown that Droll Lockbird is actually not that great against, right? Like Malice, Droll is not terrible against Malice, but it's also not great. It's not great into Orchest. It's not that great into Vanquish Soul. It's not that great into Blue Eyes. It's good into White Forest. It's probably not great into Evil Twins. I don't know how good it does into Lunalight, but it's decent against Mermail. It's not that great into Memento. So like Droll Lockbird, even in a format where it's probably at its highest play rate, maybe ever, but it still is a hit or miss card, which is like it's super annoying. It kills Gem Knight. Does it really kill Gem Knight? Because they have a lot of like send from deck to graveyard. I don't know how often they actually searched in the feature matches we saw. I don't think it completely kills the deck, actually. I don't think that's true. Because I think one of them, like the one that searches the quote unquote searches the fusion spells, right? It sets it from the deck, right? Like the quartz. Yeah, it sets it directly from the deck. It doesn't add it. So this one adds, of course, like this one adds, which sometimes you can even do multiple in the same turn because you get an extra normal summon. Then you have the Link monster that I think adds a card. So I'm sure Droll is annoying to the deck, but I don't think it outright just destroys it. I don't think that's true, but yeah. Anyways, that is essentially the format that we're working with right now, headed into the EUWCQ, of course, minus the Battles of Legends stuff, unfortunately, which is going to not be relevant for us, which is a little sad, but it is okay. I still think the format is decently diverse, even without the Battles of Legends stuff. We're probably going to see a little bit more Mitsu and Malice at the EUWCQ because of it. But hey, maybe we can maybe a Sky Striker can take their place. It's not too late to cope on that, is it? And then after that, obviously, it is time to start looking into Justice Hunters format, which part of me part of me really wanted a ban list over the course of the NAWCQ, because I just think it would have been exciting for the EU WCQ. I would have actually loved a little bit of a challenge for like a new format for for Euros, even if it was just like 2 weeks time. I thought it would have made it so much more interesting. But I also think part of me kind of wants Justice Hunter just to release, because I want to see how these new decks fare in this current format. Like how is, because this is a matchup basically that's never really happened in the OCG because they don't have Mitsurugi, right? So like in my head it's like, how does K9 Vanquish Soul fare into Mitsurugi cards? How does Yummy fare into Mitsurugi cards? How does Draco Tail work into Mitsurugi? Like how does this format play out if there is no ban list? Is also something that I would be interested in. So whether or not we get a ban list or not is still up in the air. I mean I made my personal prediction like last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't remember when I said it, but my personal prediction was, timing wise, it makes a lot more sense if it's now the EU's turn to publish a ban list on their live stream. I think that would be very hype if Europe gets to do it for Euros. So that was my prediction. But I also could see them just not releasing a ban list and be like, yeah, we're just gonna let this unfold, you know, we're just gonna see how Justice Hunters is gonna impact this format before we drop a ban list, which I think is also somewhat reasonable.